This episode of Twin Cities Trekkies is brought to you by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor before, let me explain. First of all, it's free. There are creation tools that help you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership required. They'll also help you to distribute your podcast so it can be heard on many different platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's all you need in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, everyone. Welcome back to episode 29 of Twin Cities Trekkies. I am Wes.
And I'm Kenzie.
And we're back. We're back after roughly about a month away. It doesn't
feel like that long ago. It's so funny that time is flying by so quickly.
Yeah, and it's definitely now with a lot of new Star Trek content out there. We have Lower Decks still airing. We have Prodigy starting up soon. We have Discovery coming back and stuff like that. So yeah, it's great. It's a weird
time for us to jump off like right when we were coming to the brink of like we're ready to talk about all the new stuff coming. It's like, well, now we had the chance to really dive in, I guess, and come back now being like, well, we have seen a lot of it and heard a lot of news, and now we can catch up and talk about it.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do, because obviously I can mention what happened to a little bit what happened to why we were away. But I want to let you guys know how to get in touch with us. It is simple. Simply email us at tctrekkiespodcast@gmail.com. Send us an email. It would be great to read your comments of anything like that of the sort and stuff like that. It'd be great. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. The handle is TC Trekkies Pod for both social media platforms. And also, you can send us voice messages. You can go to anchor.fm/Twin Cities Trekkies. Click on that little message button when you get there, and you can start recording your voice. Just make sure you enable your microphone first. We don't want to have you have a voice message and you don't say anything at all when you did, and we don't hear you.
Very bold move.
Yeah,
3-minute long silent voicemail.
Yeah. So yeah, it'd be great. Yeah. So and also, if you have a podcast of your own, send us an email with your 60-second promo to the same email address of tctrekkiespodcast@gmail.com, and we will gladly feature you. And you will be credited in the show notes when the episode is released. Stuff like that. We've had 3 so far. We've had Beyond the Pen, Pod Jerky, and Living the Dream with Curveball. So those 3 have been cycled through every 3 weeks. So if you have more, we gladly would take more. So make sure you send us an email with your promo. But keep in mind that any feedback you do leave, vocal or written, may be featured in a future episode of this podcast. Okay, so I know I made an audio announcement about this about a month ago. Why we were on hiatus. Here's the reason why. Long story short, I was robbed.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Whack. Yeah, long story short, I was robbed. My personal stuff was actually stolen. The day after we recorded the last time. So, which was back in early August. So, but we had episodes all the way through the end of the month. So there was no deviation of our schedule. But long story short, I was robbed. So, I don't want to get into too much details, but that's what happened. And that is why Twin Cities Trekkies was on a month-long hiatus. was because we had episodes all the way through the end of August, but then after that, there was none because I was robbed the day after we recorded the last.
Yeah, kind of hard to do any recording when you don't have laptops to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I try to find some ways to keep this going. Like I do have an ancient iPad.
Yeah.
Meaning ancient. I've had it since 2012. I mean, I could have done it that way, recorded and then did it that way, but it was been kind of weird. Could have been a little bit weird. So I just decided to just wait until my insurance came my claim and stuff like that, and and we're back. Long story short, we're back. I'm recording on my Chromebook for the first time ever, so yay me.
Yeah, I mean that's cool getting that technology, which that's another thing that you've had to deal with too, is the chip shortage and trying to get a hold of a laptop in the midst of all of that happening. Delays to shipping and all of our supply chain due to the hurricane and COVID. It's wild.
Yeah, hurricane. It was also the insurance was taking a while because of the recent hurricane down in Louisiana, Hurricane Ida. So and stuff like that, and it took a while to that. But chip shortage is actually an unfortunate side effect of the pandemic. The supply chain shortages around it's disrupted everything from anywhere from chip shortages, computer chip shortages for our cars to our computers and technology that we rely on every day, to like things like other things as well, like meat prices have gone up and stuff like that because of other things as well. It's an unintended side effect of the pandemic. So, but that's the long story short. I personally was robbed. So that is what happened. So it is so sad. But hey, we're back to normal. We're here, obviously. So
yeah, I'm just happy that nothing happened to you though, because that's so crazy. For context, that it's like breaking into your apartment. It's like that's very scary. But at least you were able to get stuff figured out, and hopefully that type of stuff never happens again in your apartment.
So so that's pretty much what happened. So and then we're back, and then I'm gonna let you guys know that we probably will not have an episode for Wednesday, October 20th, because I'm on vacation starting next week as of this recording. I will be actually as a week from today, I will be in Orlando, Florida.
It's exciting.
So, yeah, it's a birthday celebration for my wife, who is wanted to go to Universal Orlando and check out the Wizarding World. She's a big Potterhead, so that's what they call Harry Potter.
Super epic.
That's what they call Harry Potter super fans, is Potterheads. So and she's super excited about that. She's also excited about seeing her grandma. She lives down in Florida too. I mean, also my grandma, kind of, because I'm married to my wife.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be like a 9-day trip. I'm gonna be gone from this upcoming Sunday up until that following Monday. I think it's like an 8-day trip there, and then I'm taking the next 2 days off after that to because I have my cat at a place in Bloomington, actually. Ironically.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's called a Cat's Meow.
I've seen that.
Yep, that's where my cat is going to be boarded during this trip, and she's going to have a longer vacation than my wife and I, because she's going to be going there the Saturday before, because they're closed on Sunday, and not only that, because we're going to be flying out on Sunday morning, so and being down there, and it's going to be kind of weird going down there and just whatnot. So we're just doing that Saturday beforehand, so and stuff like that. So I'm just let you guys know that we're going to record just 2 episodes, and then we'll be back on the 27th with brand new episodes. Probably trying to do a review of Lower Decks by then. Season 2.
It should be finishing up by then.
It should be finished by the time we record again, and then we'll be starting up Prodigy a few days later and stuff like that. So, but that's beside the fact. We can talk all about that in a short little bit.
Yeah.
right, we have oh my gosh, I don't know what you can call this. A news overload, I want to say.
Yeah, a little bit of catch up.
Yeah, we're playing catch up here because we would have done this had nothing happened to me. We would have done an episode about Star Trek Day about this already. We would have done it probably the week after it had happened, which was on the 5th, which was happened on the probably the 14th or the 15th of last month. So yeah, so yeah, happy Star Trek Day.
Yeah, belated Star Trek Day.
Yeah, belated Star Trek Day, everybody. Yeah, so they had like an in-person event this year in Los Angeles. I watched the entire thing, by the way. It was awesome. I watched it on Paramount Plus. They had red carpet interviews with Naomi Kyle and what's her name? I forgot her name now. Something Chu. I forgot her first name. And they were on the red carpet talking with some of the stars of the various shows. There was, I know they talked to Mary Chieffo from Discovery, which, by the way, she revealed that she is actually part of the LGBT community that day, which was nice. Yeah.
I had a lot of friends who sent me like clips of that day, just being like, "Hey, you like this, right?" Like just enough. I like that there was enough buzz and like people know about Star Trek Day and about the new things coming for Star Trek. That a lot of people were reaching out, being like, "Hey, I know you like Star Trek, right? Have you been seeing this?" Or I'm watching this right now. And I'm like, that's awesome to hear that like people actually are aware and excited about Star Trek.
Yeah, so I watched the entire event. Like, I mean, I thought it was awesome, you know. And I know that they had the red carpet interviews, like I mentioned, Mary Chieffo, who mentioned she's part of the LGBT community now. She actually mentioned that at Star Trek Day. So it's kind of cool. She was actually wearing these like rainbow boots on the red carpet, and she's a tall woman. So already a tall woman. So she was like at least 4 or 5 inches taller with these like high heel boots that were rainbow. So it was kind of cool. They are also interviewing some of the other stars from Discovery who will be in season 4, such as Blue Del Barrio, Ian Alexander, Wilson Cruz, who were part of the Discovery panel at Star Trek Day. I mean, last year Star Trek Day was completely virtual because of COVID. This year they had a limited audience full of the stars of the shows, plus fans who were invited. Like I mentioned before, I'm friends with Chris Hunter, Jeffrey Hunter's son. He was invited, and he probably went, and that kind of thing. So they had a red carpet thing and everything like that, hosted by Will Wheaton and LeVar Burton's daughter Mika. So, and they did it last year. So they did it this year. They did it this year in person, and they actually had Jeff Russo doing the orchestra. So they had like, yeah, the opening music that they did was a combination of all of the shows.
I love the orchestra pieces like that where they combine the different title themes and things like video games and stuff too. I love that.
Yeah, they combined all. I think he didn't include Lower Decks or Prodigy because they were composed by 2 different people.
Yeah.
Chris Westwick does the music for Lower Decks. And
did they throw in a little Faith of the Heart?
They actually no, they didn't actually.
I was like, man,
it's actually
find some way to orchestrally do that.
Yeah, for Enterprise, they actually did a little bit of the end credits theme.
Yeah,
which is called Archer's theme. And it was composed for the pilot, and actually was intended to be the title music for Enterprise. But and it was crazy. It was this it was awesome. They did some tributes to the other shows. They had one cast member from each show do like a little tribute to the other shows that were like Next Generation, the original series, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise. Like, I know the representatives for all of them were, for the original series, it was George Takei. For the Next Generation, it was LeVar Burton. For Deep Space Nine, it was a recorded message from Cirroc Lofton. Jake Sisko. From Voyager, it was Garrett Wang, Ensign Harry Kim.
Yeah.
Still an ensign.
Still an ensign, always.
Still an ensign Harry Kim. And then for Enterprise, it was Anthony Montgomery, Travis Mayweather. So, and stuff like that. But surprisingly, none of the, I'm surprised that this wasn't at Star Trek Day now that Viacom CBS is together again. They didn't make any mention. So the Kelvin timeline was not mentioned at Star Trek Day.
It's interesting.
Yeah. And I have a feeling that the reason why it was probably not mentioned was because of the upcoming film. Which we're going to talk about in one of the bits of news. There actually is a little bit of movie news, but it was just recent, so it was like as of the last like week or so.
Yeah.
So, but I'll make sure to mention it because I was actually making a document of all the news that we have missed. So, yeah. So Star Trek Day, yeah. So yeah, it was great. I mean, I watched all of them, and the panels were very short. I was expecting at least a whole day event. No, it was like condensed in like 3.5 hours. It was great. I enjoyed watching them out. So, all right. So we have a news overload. So, all right. So during the Discovery panel, which was like roughly about halfway through the day, the event, someone who was there, because who was on the Discovery panel was executive producer Michelle Paradise, Ian Alexander, Wilson Cruz, and Blue Del Barrio. Someone had, it wasn't heard during the panel, but it was made aware of by Wilson Cruz himself. Someone had directed a homophobic slur at him during that event. I mean, he didn't mention what it was or anything like that, but there were a lot of fans who were very upset with this fan who did that.
Yeah.
I mean, myself included.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not inclusive at all. That's not what Star Trek stands for.
Yeah, and that's what he made mention of. It's like, I mean, he took the high road and didn't react to it, and stuff like that, which normally he probably would have. But anybody who probably would have. But he took the high road, didn't react, but just made note of it that, hey, this happened to me. I'm not gonna react to it and stuff like that. I mean, I appreciate all the love and support you've given me and stuff like that in spite of this. So
it's tough. But also way to take the high road,
I think on a Star Trek group that you and I are a part of. So the big Star Trek group on Facebook. So
yeah, it's nice to interact with fellow fans in all of those groups.
Yeah, so it's really kind of sad that that is actually happening. That still happens. Yeah, so it's not inclusive at all, and I could totally condemn what that person said. So whatever was said, we condemn it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We do have a premiere date for Star Trek Prodigy, October 28th.
Yeah.
On Paramount Plus.
I am so excited.
The full trailer was released on Star Trek Day. It looks amazing.
I'm a big fan of the animation. I'm super pumped. I'm super pumped to see where they go with the stories. Like if it's going to feel more like it's going to be like a storyline, but if it'll feel a little more, I don't know, like lower decks, like where it's like focusing on these characters that aren't necessarily like the main people of the character, but like kind of be forced into the spotlight.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so they had the full trailer. This was a show that I was not necessarily excited about maybe like 6 months ago, but after seeing the trailer, and also they released the title sequence, it looked amazing. And I was like, okay, now I'm actually excited to see what goes from here. The season starts on the 28th with a 1-hour premiere with the first 2 episodes of the first season, and stuff like that. They will actually have that premiere at New York Comic Con, which is, as this recording, is next weekend. So So they will have a big panel about Discovery. New York Comic Con happens next weekend. It will also have this premiere of Prodigy. And also, we will probably get a full trailer for Discovery, finally. Which, speaking of Discovery, will return on November 18th. Now, this threw everybody for a loop. Everybody who does a Star Trek podcast threw everybody for a loop. Because this is actually the first time in over 20 years that 2 Star Trek shows go on at the same time. 2 Star Trek shows. You know,
what was the other one?
Well, okay, it was Deep Space Nine and Voyager.
Oh yeah, I guess, yeah.
In 1998-99. So season 7 of DS9 and season 5 of Voyager were running the same time. That in the late 90s.
Yeah.
So that is so it's the first time since then, since the end of Deep Space Nine, that we have 2 shows going at the same time. We'll have Discovery and Lower Deck and Prodigy going at the same time. I mean, based on how we see things around, I think the Prodigy will run 10 episodes and end in mid-December, while Discovery will still go on past that until February. So, and because, you know, I think out of all the shows, Discovery has the most episodes. That's 13, probably.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I don't know how it's going to work for us. I mean, we'll just fly by the seat of our pants, I guess.
Yeah. Just watch it all. Be completely entrenched in Star Trek.
Star Trek watching, yeah. I mean, granted, there'll be 2 shows to watch instead of just 1. I mean, that's what I've been doing since Lower Decks came back. So it's just 1 episode a week, which is okay. But now we can watch 2, and they'll be released at the same time, roughly. It might cause an overload for Paramount Plus's servers. Who knows? I mean, when Discovery season 1 was airing on All Access, I remember an episode called Lethe. And I remember watching it. It was having a bunch of buffering issues for everybody. So, I mean, granted, I know that things have changed in the last 4 years, but since the episode aired, but you know, I hope it doesn't happen again. You know, yeah. So I don't know what it's going to do for us, but we'll go by the seat of our pants.
I'm fine with that. That's the way I live most of my life. So
yeah. So goodoldgames.com, otherwise known as GOG.com, has expanded its Star Trek library for the first time in 5 years. They had released 4 titles before from the early 90s and early to mid 90s PC games. They had 25th Anniversary, Judgment Rights, Starfleet Academy, and Starfleet Command.
Starfleet Academy.
Yeah, and out of those 4 games, only Starfleet Academy had a kind of like a mixed perception because of the fact it was kind of a little weird in terms of graphic. It was, I mean, the cutscenes were full film video, but stuff like that. It was just the graphics and stuff like that at the time was like a little bit out of there, you know, that kind of thing. It got better when Starfleet Command came out 3 years later, but 25th Anniversary and Judgment Rights are the quintessential point-and-click adventure games for Star Trek. They have now added 6 more titles.
Yeah, that was so surprising and awesome.
They have added 6 titles from the Activision era with 2 more on the way. So they have a total of 8. So the games that came out are Voyager Elite Force 2, Away Team, Hidden Evil, which is actually a semi-sequel to Insurrection. So Elite Force 2, Starfleet Command 3, Away Team, Hidden Evil, and Bridge Commander. I have played every single one of these games except for Away Team and Hidden Evil. So and stuff like that. They are amazing, folks. I highly recommend you try them out. Unfortunately, I can't play them anymore because I have a Chromebook, and Chromebooks do not work with these games. So
yeah, and I don't have a laptop that I play games on, so I'm kind of out of that loop a little bit. But I've been like reading up on it because I have friends who are super passionate about a lot of the Star Trek computer games. So
yeah,
pretty exciting.
This is actually part of the golden age of Star Trek gaming, by the way. The 99 Activision era is considered by many Star Trek fans who were computer game fans to be the golden age of gaming. They released 10 titles during a 4-year span, and most of them were for PC. The ones I mentioned, and then the two that are in TBA right now on GOG.com, Armada and Armada 2. They also released a few other games that were not necessarily great. Like there was an online game you could play chess, an online chess game called Conquest Online. It featured Q and John Delancey, so and stuff like that. But the last two games they released prior to their leaving the license were Elite Force 2 and Starfleet Command 3. And there was a lawsuit, and it was all over like tech news and stuff like that. So they sued for franchise fatigue and they left the license. And as a result, those
game license stuff is so wild too. Like I wonder how they even went about like just making it. I mean, like that's kind of the big thing when you get these like big companies that like Paramount now like overtaking Star Trek, like buying out all licenses and things to like be allowed to have ownership of those games. So it's cool that they do it, but also like what a crazy treasure hunt.
Yes, so if you have a Windows PC, you can definitely buy them. $10 a game. It's actually they're dirt cheap compared to when they first came out. So dirt cheap.
Yeah, it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's a pretty good deal. So Discovery has won another Emmy Award. Woohoo! For the episode Sukal, which is episode 11 of season 3. I mean, they were able. Second ever Emmy Award. They were nominated for 3, so they got 1 win out of it, which is nice.
Yeah,
outstanding visual effects in a single episode, by the way, was the category, and they won it for that episode Sukal, which is the one that we first meet the Kelpian who caused the burn. So it was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool to see Star Trek be put on the radar, like for the hard work that goes into it, because there's so many people behind the scenes that are making that happen, and I think it's just exciting to see it taken seriously. Like it's not just some little like niche, like small group of people that are into Star Trek and it doesn't really matter, and it's like, oh, just some little weird sci-fi show. It's like something that people of all different walks of life can watch, and it's exciting.
Yeah, so and you gotta admit, winning that award while you're doing these visual effects from home during the pandemic has got to be an achievement in and of itself. That
despite the pandemic, like how successful all of the development on these shows has been is just impeccable. Kudos to like everybody having to like learn to work in a new way, but making it work to the point that, I mean, winning an Emmy over it.
Picard coming back February 2022.
Nice.
So I mean, granted, it probably will come after Discovery, which at least my calculations, when season 4 ends, the following week will be Picard. So we have some casting news about it too. We have a new actress playing the Borg Queen. Her name is
yes.
Annie Wersching, who, by the way, her first ever on-screen credit was in Enterprise.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that.
Her first ever TV role was in Enterprise. She was in the first season episode Oasis with Renee Auberjonois.
Way to go full circle then. That's
yeah,
quite a full circle.
Yeah, so Annie Wersching, who actually after that was best known for playing an FBI agent in 24. She is actually the third actress to play the Borg Queen. First was Alice Krieg, who was in First Contact and the Voyager finale. And then Susanna Thompson, who did it for the episodes Dark Frontier and the two-parter Unimatrix Zero. So and stuff like that. And Alice Krieg has recently reprised her role as the Borg Queen in a bit role on Lower Decks. So so in the most recent episode of Lower Decks called I Escritus. So spoiler alert, Kenzie. So
oh, that's all good. I mean, I've been reading about heads up to folks listening to this that I haven't actually caught up with Lower Decks, but we're still going to talk about it though, because I am a fan of spoilers. Like, I don't mind spoilers or anything. Like, I'll totally read up on stuff even if I haven't seen it. So I'm usually always about that.
Yeah. So Alice Krieg has played the role in 3 different Star Trek productions now. First Contact, the Voyager finale, and Lower Decks, and stuff like that. So so she is still kicking and doing stuff. So stuff like that. Oh, we also celebrated the 20th anniversary of Enterprise, stuff like that. So that was kind of nice to do. Fun fact about that, I'm also a writer contributor for Warp Factor Trek, which is a Star Trek fan site. I write articles for them. So I've written 2 of them. So one was about Enterprise. So the first one was about, because no one had written an article yet for the site about the 20th anniversary of Enterprise, which is just
I feel like Enterprise was like a weird, like nobody like it kind of dwindled, and I feel like I meet a lot of people who are now like rekindling like their interest in it, but I feel like I met a lot of people who for a long time just did not appreciate Enterprise.
So back to so that's why I did that too. So I'm just throwing that out there. I am also a contributor for Warp Factor Trek. So back to the card. We do know for sure that one of our predictions did come true. There will be time travel. It looks like the Borg Queen is bringing them back in time. So the trailer did show that some use of the Borg Queen to travel back in time to the 21st century.
Borg gonna be trying again. I'm like, they don't give up. They're like, you know what? We're gonna play the time game. Then we can play it too.
Yeah, but from what I understand, it is all because of Q. Q altered the timeline, apparently, according to the trailer. And
sounds like a pretty cute thing to do.
Yeah, and there's also a little bit of scene the error that Q had made, apparently. So that is what is going on in season 2 so far. We'll definitely do another predictions episode. This trailer had a lot. So the next time we record, probably for the 27th, folks, will probably be predictions take 3. So
I know there's so many ways they could go, but it's exciting to kind of, predict and figure out what might be happening. I'm excited. I know some people have had mixed feelings about Q and all of that, or the first season of Picard, or like dealing with like the previous like episodes of Picard. But I think it'll be really good.
Yes. So February 2022, which probably be like mid-February. So, which would be nice for. I know, granted, they don't air on broadcast TV, but that is technically sweeps week and sweeps month in Nielsen terms. So, let's see here. What else is going on? Okay, so we do have a little bit of movie news, and it may affect the upcoming film. Emma Watts, who was brought into Paramount last June to be the head of the motion pictures area of Paramount, has resigned. She resigned her position. She made her mission to bring Star Trek back to the big screen. She put the kibosh on the Noah Hawley film and stuff like that. But she has resigned her position. They're looking for a new head of the motion pictures group. So I don't know if this is we don't know if this is gonna affect the upcoming film coming out in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that like the mission statement of getting it set up and ready, that it's already, moving.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of moving parts now.
Yeah. So Emma Watts has resigned. It's unclear if it's going to affect the film directed by Matt Shakman. So, which, by the way, WandaVision only won like 10 Emmy Awards as opposed to like the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah.
At the Emmy Awards. So, they were shocked when they didn't win like an acting award or anything like that. So, I mean, it was a big upset, stuff like that. Yeah. So, a little bit of WandaVision news for everyone who's cares about that, because Shatman did direct all 9 episodes of WandaVision. So
that's why it's also promising. I really like WandaVision. So.
Mm-hmm. So there may be a strike coming soon with the IATSE, which is something to do with the theater employees or something like that. You see the logo on the end credits of like films at the towards the end of it. It's like a logo that's like a 5. I don't know what you call it. I forgot what it's called exactly. So international something theater employees.
Yeah, I don't know what it stands for.
Yeah, there's a strike looming. I found it out actually from Edward James Olmos's Facebook. Actually, someone had shared it, and
what's the reasoning, or do
they want better working conditions, stuff like that. They're working into like the late hours of the night sometimes to work on these shows and stuff like that, and they're exhausted.
And also, it's a combination of the pandemic. I'm sure it's just like epic.
Yes, it is. It is, and from what I understand, streaming services, they take a lot of the actors' salary pay.
Oh.
They make less money if you're on streaming compared to if you're on cable
I did not know
or
that.
on network television. So that's what I understand. So there is a strike looming. They have not made a vote yet, but it is on the horizon. And if that's the case, season 3 of Picard may be halted. Because I know I have a feeling that some of the people who are on that production staff are part of this union.
Yeah.
And that would probably halt production of season 3 of Picard. Speaking of season 3 of Picard, it was officially renewed on Star Trek Day, even though it was the worst kept secret ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just the worst kept secret ever. Whenever they want to renew Star Trek, it's the worst kept secret ever. I mean, because John Delancey earlier this summer had said, "Oh, I'm filming scenes for season 3 of Picard too," and I'm also filming. And then last year, season 4 of Discovery, we knew about 6 weeks before it actually was announced.
Yeah, I feel like people are just like whatever about it. Like, I think it just keeps the hype going. I think hiding it, honestly, like people are just tired of that. It's like they're gonna find out. So I think if you're just like honest about it, being like, you know what, I think it's gonna be coming out. So just letting you guys know, even though it's not official, I'm just saying so.
Yeah. So Discovery Picard season 3 may come to a halt if that actually happens. And speaking of Picard season 3, the showrunner Terry Matalas, who was on Enterprise originally, he was part of the 3rd season of that show, actually, back in 2003. He actually co-wrote the show episode Impulse. So he actually has Star Trek veteran under his belt. Michael Chabon is no longer the showrunner. That was clear after season 1. He was going to develop. He actually signed a development deal with CBS to develop more shows and stuff like that. And he is, so he's still around as an executive producer, but not the showrunner. So
I kind of like the turnaround though that's happening in a lot of the shows. Are giving people chances to write and like spotlighting that more. Like I feel like it's more of a big deal that people announce like who's writing what or who's like heading certain episodes or projects or series. Like I really like that because it's like give credit where it's due, and it's nice when they treat it as like a team rather than just being like, yay, actors. That's it. It's like, what about the writers? What about like the people who do the animation for this? Like we should talk about all these people because it's the only reason why it all comes together is because it's a whole team. I feel like Star Trek has been really emphasizing a lot more of the whole team that makes up episodes and like seasons. So I like that.
Yeah. So as I mentioned that in season 3 we might get a new Star Trek Starfleet ship. He had tweeted out on Twitter some of the LCARS displays, which are our return to the ones that we were familiar with from The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, and stuff like that. So we got to see a lot more. I got to see them and stuff like that. The LCARS displays are typical of what we saw on TNG and Voyager and Deep Space Nine. So which is kind of nice and stuff like that. We also, and this is actually something that I was gonna mention when we record next time, but we can definitely bring it up again. There was a director for season 2 of Picard. His name is Joel Melendez. He had put a picture of his office of prepping episodes of Picard, and on the office, like, it had the number of the room, and it said Star Trek Picard, prepping director, and it had a silhouette of a Sovereign class starship in there. Could that mean we would see the Enterprise E in season 2? I hope so.
Yeah, that'd be really sweet.
Yeah, and and I know that Michael Dorn probably wouldn't play as Worf on Picard, but I think he still is probably going to be there because, like I said in that book, The Last Best Hope, he is now the captain of the Enterprise and stuff like that. So I know that Michael Dorn was there for a video game with his cryptic tweaks earlier this year.
Yeah, I know. To this day, I was still very disappointed. Like, there was so much hype, and it's like, tell us what it is. Like, oh my gosh, you're gonna be able to card confirmed, and then everyone be like, actually, it's just for a game, which that's not bad either. But it's like, it's nice to see him embracing that. But it was definitely a bit of a trollsy move. I'm like, hey, you know exactly what you're doing here.
He could come back. I'm cool with it. So So I hope that's the case. So who knows? All right. Wow. A lot more news to talk about.
Yeah, so much news. I mean, it is. It's a big month for Star Trek, and we kind of missed that whole run like on Star Trek Day. So gotta recite it.
Strange New Worlds. We got a character trailer instead of a teaser trailer, which everyone was expecting. By the way, everyone was expecting a teaser trailer for Strange New Worlds. That didn't happen. We got a character trailer. So we found out who the whole cast is playing, and including some new ones too. We finally found out who is the full name of Una, of number 1.
Yeah.
Una Chin Riley. Interesting name.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like I said, I thought it was gonna be Major Una. I thought Una was gonna be her last name. So
yeah, I know. I was like, oh, I didn't realize that was gonna be the full name, I guess. But I like the character character trailers. Like my dad's super excited about this, so I'm excited too to seeing him be excited because he always wanted to see this timeline of Star Trek, like they've never really covered it, so it's nice to see kind of like a coverage of that.
Yeah. So we got Una and Riley, but then we got some returning characters. We have Cadet Nyota Uhura, which was kind of cool. Celia Rose Gooding is playing her. She's the third actress to play Uhura, following the great Nichelle Nichols and Zoe Saldana.
Yeah.
And then Jess Bush is playing Nurse Christine Chapel, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of great that we're getting Chapel back because she had been mentioned in the first 2 Kelvin timeline films, but never seen. So, kind of nice being back to see Nurse Chapel again for the first time in over 50 years. So, and then Dr. Embenga, played by Babs Sokyun, who is going to be in Dune, by the way.
I am very excited for Dune.
Yeah.
Patiently counting down the days until I can go see that.
Yeah, so he'll be in Dune, but then after that he'll be in Strange New Worlds. Yeah, so Dr. Embenga, who had been in the original series twice, in A Private Little War and That Which Survives, is back on the Enterprise. So we'll finally get to see why did how did he become more part of the Enterprise after Pike.
Yeah.
So Dr. Embenga, so we get this, like Pike's Enterprise, and stuff like that. And we got some new faces on his Enterprise, which we have never met before. We actually have Erica Ortegas, played by Melissa something, I forgot her last name.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
Hemmer, who is an Enar Andorian from Enterprise.
Yeah, I was like,
nice little tie-in to Enterprise there.
Yeah.
And like roughly about a few months ago, CBS had mentioned that they were gonna start hiring people not based on their more handicapped actors. And Bruce Horan, who is Bruce Horak, who is going to be playing Hemmer, the Enar.
Yeah.
Is legally blind.
Oh, so, that's cool. But I appreciate that. That's a really cool take.
Yeah. So you actually have a blind Andorian played by a blind actor. Kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's good representation. I like when production actually does that, where they're like, you know what, instead of just like pretending to represent this, like why not just represent it as it is, right?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, so it was awesome to see that happening. But the most tantalizing new character on Pike's Enterprise is Laan Noonien Singh, played by Christina Chong. So so this is I don't know, this is the one that's caused a lot of like discussion.
Yeah.
A lot, because is she related to Khan?
I know, that's what I was like, is this going to be one of the like powerful species, or the like one of the engineered folk?
Yeah. Is she going to have to like hide her genetic engineering just like Dr. Bashir did?
Yeah.
Because I think that's going to be interesting if it happens like that. I mean, like she has to hide her superhuman intellect and stuff like that, or whatever, to still be in Starfleet. It'll be a nice tie-in to Julian Bashir. Who knows?
I know, it's like they haven't really talked much about that. Like for something that like in the future of Star Trek, like that is the one loophole. I'm like, why is this not talked about more? I feel like it's like a really big deal, like genetic engineering in the future, and like that's almost like a dark side of history in the future, where the future seems so bright usually, where things have come to a pretty good atonement for any previous history. But then it's like, what about the genetically engineered folk and the whole like political rambling around that? And everyone's just like, I don't know, like we got Khan, but it's like, yeah, we'll just kind of ignore that whole situation. And then Bashir just being like, oh, what? I'm genetically engineered? That's kind of messed up. And then like kind of ignoring that too. I'm like, this will be maybe there'll be some cool tie-ins to like how that even came about and addressing that.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. We also had a little bit of the 4K restoration of the motion picture director's edition. It was during one of the breaks between the panels where Naomi Kyle and her co-hosts were reacting to reading tweets from fans live, and it was there for 10 seconds, but it was there. I mean, it's just a little shot of the Enterprise flying through V'ger. So, but it looked stunning. We have no release date yet of the this updated 4K Ultra HD restoration of the director's cut yet, but it looks like it's gonna look amazing, folks. So,
yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing it. For
something that's supposed to be so visually stunning, it'll be cool to see it even more visually stunning in a very modernized way.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm looking
keep it visually stunning with the sign of the times.
Yeah, and I'm hoping eventually it'll be on Blu-ray and stuff like that. Which, speaking of Blu-ray, all the first 4 films are out on Ultra HD Blu-ray, and all in a 4-disc set, and also individually too. I just found it out yesterday, so I mean, I looked at some of the cover art for the individual releases, and they're actually on par with what they were originally on like VHS tape, which is kind of cool.
I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, to the original forefathers of being released.
Yeah, yes. So I saw that. That was pretty cool. So on Star Trek Day, the Roddenberry Foundation launched a new campaign, kind of like a hope for the future kind of campaign. Obviously, but they're asking for those online submissions, and then the cumulative digital art will raise funds for nonprofits whose work aligns with the Roddenberry ideals of diversity, inclusion, and progress. And Will Wheaton said this would be shot in space. So I don't know if that's a joke or joking. I don't know if he was joking or that was real, but he had mentioned that. 100 quotes of Gene Roddenberry to celebrate his 100th birthday and stuff like that. They actually did have a panel about the legacy of Gene Roddenberry at Star Trek Day to celebrate his 100th birthday. What would have been his 100th birthday, I should say. So and stuff like that, and they had stuff like that. It was kind of cool. I mean, that was actually my low point of the thing, because it wasn't like anything I hadn't heard before. Like, it's like it's like stuff like that. It wasn't anything I heard before, but stuff like that. Oh, this was pretty cool. This is something like sciencey-ish. Tim Russ, best known as Tuvok on Voyager, is one of only 5 non-NASA scientists to discover an asteroid.
That's so epic.
He discovered one orbiting Jupiter earlier this year with a group of NASA scientists. So I
love when Star Trek crosses over into the actual science world. It's really epic, and that's part of why I also like love Star Trek. It's just that connectivity between like real scientific method and the science world with the TV show, where it's like these two can almost be mutually exclusive, and hopefully in the future that will be the case, right? Like all the things we see in Star Trek, it's like trying to keep it realistic to our universe, and that's why I like it. So
yeah, they have shows including Lower Decks, too. And we'll do it for Prodigy. Yeah. So, the Orville's coming back. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm happy about it too because one of my favorite like stand-up comedians is Norm Macdonald, and he passed away from cancer, and that's some of his last work that he did was on that show. So
Yep. And it's coming back on March 10th, 2022, which is roughly about 3 years after its final aired episode on Fox. So it's been a long time.
Yeah. I think a lot of it got thrown for a loop, and I don't know, other projects, things going on. Who knows? Like, it seems like they probably had a little more of a struggle working during the pandemic. So
yeah, they did. They had a few times where they shut down.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously everything shut down last March, and then resumed back in December, back in November or December. And then they had another COVID outbreak, and then they shut down again.
Yeah. So they had a rough time.
They had a rough third season. Terms of production, but is a shorter season. It's like 10 episodes. They're either going to be directed by Seth MacFarlane or John Vassar. But the episodes are going to be at least 10 minutes longer than they were on Fox. So at least 10, 11 minutes longer. So, but it also came with a new title, The Orville New Horizons, which I don't know if it's going to, I don't know, but I know that the head of Hulu says that they would want to keep the Orville around.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, there's rumors of it being this is the last season of the Orville. But I remember seeing like articles from Hulu itself saying like the head of Hulu it's himself wants the Orville to come back for a fourth year. So I don't know. But so it's been a crazy whirlwind for the Orville. It's coming back for its third season in March. So as a Hulu original series. So,
yeah, I know like some of the Star Trek community does not like the Orville, but I'm a personal fan of it. I like it. It's another it's inspired. I feel like it's a good love letter to Seth MacFarlane's love of Star Trek.
Yeah,
and just a nice interpretation. So like knowing that in that show that is kind of like this like offshoot and inspired by Star Trek, I can appreciate it.
Yeah, so I agree with you completely, Kenzie. I mean, I enjoy the Orville as much as I love the Kurtzman shows. Because I've always thought that you don't have to choose between the two of them. You don't have to choose between the Orville and the Kurtzman Trek. You don't. You can watch both and enjoy both.
I know, it's like the same argument of like people are like, "Ooh, Star Wars or Star Trek," and I'm like, why not both? It's like when people try to do it, it's like, "Oh no, I'm more of a Star Trek person. I don't like the Orville." It's like you can like both. It's totally fine.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, I totally enjoy both. Speaking of kind of like, did you also hear that Babylon 5 is being rebooted?
Yeah. I'm excited about that. My dad loved that, so
yeah, I never got into Babylon 5, and I heard it's really good.
Yeah,
but I do remember the whole Deep Space Nine Babylon 5 rivalry. Did they steal from Babylon 5 and vice versa?
Yeah, I mean that was when I was young. It was kind of confusing because it is like the fact that it's just both like stations and just like the same just like that same type of like plot line. It is confusing when you're like a kid. It's like, are these similar show? Like I'm confused. This isn't the same universe, or as you get older, you're like, oh, these are totally different things. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean I never got into Babylon 5, but I know it's being rebooted for the CW. And the original creator J. Michael Straczynski is doing the reboot, so is on board to do the reboot. So I mean, granted, he had been a part of. I know he tried to pitch something for Next Generation and didn't get it, or something like that. I know he tried to be on Star Trek as a writer, but he couldn't do it. So I think it was a J.R.R. Martin, George R.R. Martin, one of those two people. And we got some Shatner news to close out this overload of news. First, he's going to be on the second Blue Origin space flight.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm kind of like, I'm like,
really, yeah.
Yeah, not the right. I'd rather be with like NASA and not private rich guy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
But
I'm
it fits
totally.
kind of Shatner's whole perception now, so I'm like, whatever.
Yeah. His Tech Wars series that he had back in the mid '90s is getting an animated reboot. He might be part of production of that, which is kind of cool. I never got into Tech War either. I mean, because it was just a short-lived show.
Yeah, I never read the books. I've never actually watched it.
I never read the books either.
Yeah, so. I just like know of that.
Yeah, he also released a music video about a month ago detailing his rough life after the original series was canceled, which if you ever read his books about the end of Star Trek for him, he was broke, he was poor, he actually lived out of his truck.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know a lot of that history.
Yeah, after Star Trek was canceled, he had a pretty rough life, rough go at it, trying to go back into his career as an actor. I mean, great, he had he had been on TV for, after Star Trek, he had been on a few shows and guest shows and starred in a few shows here and there, but they only were not as successful as Star Trek. Yeah, he had a really rough life. From what I understand, he had a really rough life. He had 3 daughters that he was trying to raise, and he was kind of virtually homeless after the original series was over. So, and stuff like that. He had a pretty rough life after that in the early 70s. So, stuff like that. So he did a music video. It's on YouTube. It's under his, I think it's under his channel. I think it is. It's really kind of a sad one too. And also for Vanity Fair. Have you seen the video yet from him? Oh, it's hilarious. So in this video, he critiques other actors' impressions of him as either him as an actor or
I need
Kirk,
to see this.
Or as Kirk. There are at least a half dozen people he critiques, like people like Jim Carrey, who did it for In Living Color, John Belushi, who did it for the very first Star Trek sketch back in 1976, and Bill Nye too. Bill Nye. It's kind of and Jason Alexander and Kevin Pollak and stuff like that. Seth Macfarlane's in it too. He's done his impression of him too. Critiques his impression of him. When Seth MacFarlane did a speech from Kirk in the original series on Real Time with Bill Maher. So it's an hilarious video, and it can just it's hilarious. I love it. I mean, it's funny. It's hilarious. It's like a 4-minute video. It's like a 4.
Yeah.
And he also
I think I heard about it, but I just didn't even click on it. I was just I don't know. I don't really it's one of those things I feel sad that I don't have as much respect for Shatner, but I just when I see a lot of stuff, I'm just I'm I don't know. I don't want to see him be a grumpy old guy.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't a very grumpy old guy when he was doing this video. It's just
Yeah, see, that's where I'm maybe I need to change my perception of him. Maybe he's chilling out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't a grumpy old guy when he was doing this. It's just what? I don't sound like that. And I'm sorry, Mr. Shatner, but you do.
As he's saying that, I don't sound like that. Just
I don't sound like that. No, you do, Mr. Shatner. I'm sorry, sir, but you do. You pause every other word. All right, so I hope that was a jam-packed bit of news there.
I'm I don't know if we're gonna have time to talk about Lower Decks. I'm I mean, we.
Oh yeah, I mean we could talk about it briefly, I guess.
Yeah, it's pop in being hey, it's I don't know. So far, I'm it's more of the same, which is good. So that's the point. It seems it's a little nerdier. The references are getting
nerdier,
a little more nuanced. Where it's hey, do you have people writing that are in Facebook groups memeing stuff? Because some of these references are starting to feel a little somebody. All these people have to be in Star Trek groups like in the discussions, because
like
the plate and everything like that kind of stuff. I'm like, man, the plates. People are so obsessed with the plates, and it's so funny that Boymer would have like that to like be obsessed with the Tom Paris being like, well, I have to have a plate, right? Like,
or call the Voyager crew Voy, or but the season so far has relied a little bit more on the gross out humor, a little bit more. With the Mugato episode.
Yeah, I was about to say, that was a little bit of voyeurism, I guess. Girls were like, oh, cool.
I thought it was okay. I thought it was funny, but it also put me off.
Yeah,
like that was.
I think it was meant to. Like, I mean, I saw it, I was just like, gross, cool, hilarious, but gross.
Hilarious, but gross.
Yeah.
And more recent episodes that you haven't seen. There was an episode like the previous week, episode 7. There was one about what's his name? Was it Billups? Chief Engineer Billups. Being a part of this royal family, and if he had sex, he would give up being in Starfleet, or you have to be a virgin in order to abdicate your throne. You have to be a virgin. So, and I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
but so if he had sex, he would have to give up being in Starfleet and being the king of this. It's hilarious. I mean, his mother appears in the show. Billups' mother, played by the actor's real life wife, Junie. I forgot who plays Billups, but his wife is June Raphael. So June Diane Raphael. So his real life wife, Paul Shearer, I think his name is. his real life wife, June Diane Raphael, played his character's Billups' mother.
That's quite a dynamic.
Yeah, and his mother definitely, Billups' mother is definitely like a Loxana Troy. Oh my gosh! If you loved Loxana Troy being overbearing, and stuff
I need to like revisit. Like, there's this whole thing. Like, after like rewatching this like side tangent of just like rewatching like Loxana, I'm like, actually, as I've gotten older, I'm like, I can almost appreciate her more. I used to think she was super annoying when I was young, so I'm like, all right, you're being like way too much, and it's ridiculous. But I'm like, she's kind of a strong lady that doesn't care about how people think about her. She just kind of goes for it. In a sense, kind of a Karen type of like vibe, but also she's standing up for stuff that she believes in. I'm like, hey, she's pretty powerful, pretty relentless too. She just doesn't care.
Yeah. So that was pretty much all it. And then the most recent episode, which was last week, called I Excretus. It was hilarious, and I loved it through and through.
I'm excited.
It's like a short little description of the plot. The crew is doing these like holodeck scenarios, and to train their readiness for anything. And and the 4 characters are doing like these scenarios from previous Starfleet crews. Like, for example, Rutherford is trying to be like Spock in the Wrath of Khan, trying to save the Enterprise. Or Mariner's trying to be like Kirk in Mirror Mirror, and Boimler encounters the Borg Queen and stuff like that. It's just, oh man, I love this. I love the episode. I love the episode. It's hilarious. I mean, they've actually upped the funny too.
Yeah, I feel like so far things have just been like way funnier too. Like, which is saying a lot, because like it already is a funny show. Like, everyone I've shown it to like has really enjoyed it, whether or not they even know much about Star Trek. That's what I like most about it, is it's best of both worlds. Like, you can enjoy and laugh at the show without knowing anything about Star Trek, but it makes it even funnier if you know things about Star Trek, because then you really are like, oh my god, I can't believe they do that, or I can't believe like they would reference this, or you understand it. But if you're not a Trekkie, it's still really hilarious because it's good humor. So
Yeah, and we actually have a Temerian on the Cerritos crew, Kayshawn.
Yeah, I love that too. I was like,
Yeah,
nice. I'm like,
yeah,
good,
and yeah,
good chance.
The first ever Temerian in Starfleet. So it is ironic that we actually have a Temerian for the first time in Star Trek since Darmok.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool for the first time in 30 years. It was kind of cool to see.
But that's what makes me think like it became so popular. Like people like really, digging that stuff out of the woodworks and like becoming obsessed with those episodes and like joking about it and making tons of like a lot of internet humor around that particular episode of TNG. So it's just like I feel like people were writing this. I'm like, you are definitely into current fandom jokes and discussions because bringing that out of the woodworks, it's like one-time appearance of that race, and now it's like, hey, by the way, we're having it back, and like everybody knows them because of that one episode. It's like iconic.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing. I mean, and as of this recording, there's 2 more episodes left of the season. So and then it's probably going to be back next August. So because season 3 is being made as we speak. So the 3rd season is in the pipeline. So but definitely, oh yeah, the Packlids are hilarious too in this season too. I mean, we got to learn a little bit more about their hierarchical structure too.
Yeah.
It's hilarious because it all depends on how big your helmet is. In terms of how powerful you are. If you have a big one, then you're like the big know-it-all. You're the big head honcho of Packlet planet. But if you have a small one, you're insignificant. So, man.
I also, there was like the episode where he comes back again, like, and they were like all shocked. Was that episode 2? With his name
Shax. Yep.
Yeah, Shax. I'm like, why can't I remember it? But like being like, why are you like? I like kind of the fourth wall. I like addressing being like, you were killed, and it's like no explanation given. It's like, yeah, well, like this loophole of like, what the heck? How did they come back? Like,
yeah.
Like, okay, like whatever, I guess.
Yeah. And Shax warns Rutherford is like, he goes like, I could tell you, but I would scare the living hell out of you.
Yeah, I'm like, I love just like I don't know, it's kind of like a funny thing of just like the absurdity of like bringing back characters, and it's like I thought something happened to them in like loopholes, but I'm like, I like that they just like do it just as a joke because it's like they don't even need to give an explanation. That's kind of the whole like joke of it.
Yeah, because I mean, granted, we've had characters die and come back, in the same episode, but this one was actually a legitimate death, and then he comes back for no explanation, and that was why. It tries to give a reason why, but then it just like it's hilarious, and then the whole transporter duplicate of Boimler, do the whole
Riker, like what the heck?
The whole Riker thing was like, oh, I've seen this darn dance before.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, Riker, my gosh, that was hilarious. When he asked for to engage the warp drive, give me a warp in the factor of 1, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah. I'm like, I absolutely love it. I'm like, that's so good. I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of it because I'm like, the humor is just perfect. It's like my perfect feel good show, like where I can enjoy it because like, I get what's going on, but also like the character, like there's some good stuff. Like they have more like actual like serious moments where they're like opening up about each other, like talking about like their weaknesses and vulnerabilities, or like just like the relationships, like Rutherford like acting really weird and like how that affects everybody, like, or him just becoming obsessed with thinking that Mariner is actually like a spy, and super hooked on that, like obsessed with conspiracies to the point where he just doesn't like care about anything else. But I appreciate them still like pursuing more serious notes in the show while still having a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the legacy characters have been amped up by 11 this year. I mean, we had Robert Duncan McNeil already as Tom Paris, but we also have had, spoiler alert, Jeffrey Combs
Which I'm like, thank God. I'm like Jeff. Every character played by Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, he is.
Like, when are they gonna have an just do an episode? Every single character, just.
Oh, yeah, that would be hilarious. Yeah.
One episode where everyone is voiced and played by Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, maybe that will happen. Who knows? Because Mike McMahon's a big Star Trek fan, so who knows? So he's in season 2. Also, like I mentioned before, Alice Krieg as the Borg Queen is back, and and stuff like that. And it's it's been funny and it's been great. We actually have some there's a lot more ties to the animated show of Star Trek this season, such as the big Spock in that collections episode. There's also a Kazinti on the Cerritos, who were in the animated series as well. And also we've also had the score, the big bird creatures.
Yeah.
In anime in Lower Decks. So
yeah, that's kind of cool that they're kind of highlighting I feel like a very undervalued part of the Star Trek franchise.
Yeah, and it's like I think Mike McMahon's trying to put every single reference to the animated show in Lower Decks to make them canonical.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Like he's doing the Lord's work there. Like I think that's the beauty of like this type of humor and like a show where it's referencing a lot of stuff is you have a chance to really push the canon of Star Trek and get a chance to be like, I don't know if you remember this, but here's a really weird reference, and everyone's like, and it forces people to go look it up if they don't get it, or be like, what is this? And it's like, maybe it's from a book, maybe it's from really underrated episodes, and like, I think it inspires people to really look into things again.
Yes, definitely. And it's
or
great.
Unlock weird memories where it's like, I honestly didn't remember that, and now saying that I'm like, oh yeah, that is kind of like a weird throwback, or like that makes me want to watch, like that just makes me want to watch the original series again. Like the first episode right away, I'm just like, dang, we're just gonna do some Gary Mitchell stuff right now. Like he just comes like a god. I'm like, I kind of want to watch the original series. Like, it's giving me some like absurd original series vibes.
Yeah, and I thought it was funny Ransom being like a godlike figure, and I think I think it would have been funnier if it was Mariner. But, I still feel like that episode, the first episode, Strange Energies. I have a feeling that it would have been funnier had it been Mariner being the godlike figure instead of Ransom, because Ransom's such a butt kisser.
Yeah.
Such a butt kisser to Freeman. So but so if you friends, if you haven't seen Lower Decks season 2, I highly recommend you see it all the way through. I mean, you might be put off by some of the gross out humor they've done this season, such as the Mugatos mating and one watching it.
Yeah.
And masturbating to it.
Yeah.
But
the absurdity is there, and it's still very funny.
Yeah,
so
if you like Family Guy humor, it's a little bit like Family Guy humor there with those kind of things. But it's definitely been an enjoyable season, and they have promised that it was bigger. We were promised that season 2 was going to be bigger than season 1, and they have delivered on that promise.
Yeah.
So, in terms of like stuff like that. So, but I hope
so far so good.
If I had an idea for an episode of Lower Decks, and this is something I would think that it could possibly happen, that the entire episode is shot live action.
That'd be hilarious.
Something that happens to the Cerritos that causes them to be fully in live action, 3D, and stuff like that. And the actors, the voice actors, play their characters as they would on Lower Decks, but in real life form. Oh man, would that be?
That'd be hilarious.
It would be hilarious. I actually thought about that, and I was like, that would be an epic episode of Lower Decks.
This is a true Force Wild big animated. Let's do one live action. Just go all out.
Or heck, doing it all in 3D.
Yeah.
Do it in 3D, like doing it in CGI or stuff like that, or heck, even in Lego, like they did for The Simpsons, or
change the animation. Be cool.
Yeah, do a different animation style or something like that. Do it, or heck, do it even
do it in the animated series. Just really
hand drawn animation like they did for and the animated series. Yeah, do it like that. So Mike McMahon, if you're listening to us, here's some ideas for your episodes in the future. Do a live action show or do like a different animation style, something like that.
I'm all for do an episode all done by Jeffrey Combs.
That too.
Ode to all Star Trek fans. Do one episode where he is everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Even the characters on the Cerritos, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah. There's some sort of temporal anomaly that's turned everyone into Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah. or everybody into the characters that he's played on Star Trek. Like Wayun and Brunt and Shran and
that's always my favorite.
Shran, I was at one from DS9. I forgot his name now. It was only one episode that the guy who was obsessed with Major Kira.
I can't think of it.
I forgot his name too, but it's okay. Tyrannus, maybe, I don't know. So next week, episode 30. Woo!
I know, that's so wild.
Yeah, we're gonna do analysis of Deep Space Nine's Benjamin Sisko. We're gonna try to get back into that character analysis once per month kind of thing. So we're gonna grant Sisko's analysis would have been this month, but like I said at the top of the show, it's unforeseen circumstances. All right, so until next week, take care and live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.